Welcome to the only podcast for piano teachers just starting out, Piano Teacher Primer. My name is Angela Toon. Keep listening for the prime pro tips you can use with your own students right away. Welcome to the Piano Teacher Primer podcast, and I have as a guest with me my friend, Jessica Allen. We had a Jessica last time, so yes, we're just having all the Jessicas in 2024, apparently.
Great name.
Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This is so fun, even though we hang out every month at our music teacher group. So I'll read her little bio here. Jessica has been the fun piano teacher for over 30 years. She currently has 65 students, including private and group music students in the Let's Play Music program, which we're going to hear more about. So, Jessica, you've been teaching 30 years.
Yes, a long time.
You started young.
I did, actually. I started really young. I had a great teacher, and she just said, and she was one who really taught me like how to do all the kinds of things that are like really like concrete, like all the usable things. And she had me, one day I walked in, I kid you not, I was 12 years old.
12.
And I walked in, 12, and she said, "I got you a student." And I went, "You what?" And she said, "Yeah, just come to my house just at this time every week, and I'm just going to have you teach her." And so she just sat and observed me teaching. And then after a while, I kept going to her house, and my student was 8, which I always thought was hilarious that I was teaching someone who was like 4 years younger than me. I felt more like a babysitter, right? I mean, I'm like, I guess I'm old enough to babysit a kid this age, so I guess I'm old enough to teach him. But
yeah, you absolutely are. I have a student teaching for me, and for a while, one of them was like a couple years apart like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, now that they're both in high school, this might be a bit awkward.
So I just kept teaching, and I taught her house. And then after a little while, she started like letting me teach at her house, but she'd only pop in and like observe like once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Once a month. So we do that for a little while. And then pretty soon I moved to my own house and teaching my own house. And I was still like grabbing a couple students. And I just taught all through high school. And I continued to do recitals with my teacher. Like she let my students come and play at the recitals. Okay. And it was just a really great introductory experience. I don't think I ever had more than probably 5 or 8 students at a time while I was in high school, but it was like just enough to kind of just get my toes wet and to start to become really comfortable with teaching.
And it's such a good teenager job, really.
Oh,
a lot of those teenager jobs are not flexible.
Yeah.
And they make pennies sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So you can arrange it around your school schedule and your activities.
Yep. I would always be doing that. I'd be calculating how much I was making per hour and being like, I couldn't make this much at like McDonald's or like whatever job all the rest of my friends were in. Of course, I didn't actually work as many hours as they did. So there was that, but it was really great. It was a really great experience. That was always my only job that I had like all through high school. So
yeah. And it feels good to make a lot in a short period of time.
Yes, it does.
Rather than work a lot for a less amount.
And even right from the very beginning, I loved that I could set my own schedule and that I could like decide how many students I wanted to have and how much felt like a good load to me, because I was a very academic student, and I did a lot of like higher level classes when I was in high school. And so I spent a lot of time doing homework. So to be able to work in exactly how many was good for me was always really great when I was a teenager.
Preach. I love it.
Right. So then I went to college. Actually did not study music in college. I kind of had identified for a while as the piano player and as the piano teacher, and decided I just wanted to try something else, as you do kind of when you're that age. And so I ended up majoring in something else. And I think I taught for my freshman year. I was close enough to home that I could just travel back like one night a week and keep teaching. But I didn't do it for very long. So I took a little bit of a teaching hiatus, got my degree, got a job at an office, and did that for a little while until I had my first baby. And he's 21 years old now. But when I had him, I all of a sudden had this thought of, teaching was kind of a nice gig. Like I could see how it could be really useful right now while I have a baby at home. And And so that's when I started picking up students again. And loved doing that until my baby, who's 13 right now, until she entered first grade. And then I kind of had this thought of like, well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life now that I don't have kids like hanging around like a toddler or preschooler all the time, or a kindergartner? And so that was when I decided that I really wanted to lean into teaching and turn it into more of like a full-time business. So I've loved that teaching has stayed with me through all of those stages and been exactly what I needed. I don't think when my children were little, I don't think I ever had more than maybe 16 students at a time. And I'd teach maybe 2, maybe 3 days a week. And that was perfect because then I could work it around their after school activities and stuff. It was a really great job then too. And now that I was looking for something more to fill my time, I definitely have found that it's, again, kind of, I've reinvented it and found like that it fills up more space now that I have more space and time, which is why I have a very full studio now, which I love. So
You're amazing. Yeah, so that's when you started the younger kid group classes during
yeah,
the day,
so
'cause your kids
so
are all in school now.
So a few years in, I started looking into the Let's Play Music program, and I just loved it. And coming from a teacher standpoint, I just felt like it was such a really great, solid program. And so I applied to become a teacher, and I've been teaching Let's Play Music for about 5 years.
Awesome.
So, um, so Let's Play Music is a group class, and it's meant for specifically for young children. It's very developmentally appropriate for young children. Kids usually start when they're 4 or 5 years old, and the program lasts for 3 years. So it's a little bit like mini college for like your toddler, but it's perfect because, or your preschooler, but it's perfect because we do things that are very much developmentally appropriate. They are doing it in a class in a social situation, which is really important to kids at that age. And we're learning everything that we teach them is through a lot of play, a lot of imagination, a lot of creativity. And so they have the opportunity to learn music in this way. And that's not to say that it's a very fluffy class, because we do all kinds of things in there. We learn chord recognition, and then later on how to like chord inversions. We use solfege to teach, including things like hand signs, which helps them to learn relative pitch. We do note recognition and note reading and sight reading. We teach them rhythm, first of all, how to follow a beat when they're very young, and then we move on to like learning how to handle complex rhythms. We do intervals, we do transposing, we do composing, we do classical music exposure, which also through that we teach them form. So there's like all of these things just wrapped into this program, but it's all done through play. So it's just this really just beautiful, like they don't even realize half the stuff that they're learning because they're just having a fun time doing it. And then later it's like, surprise, you've learned like all of these really great foundational music skills.
That
So
is so awesome. Yeah,
it's really
that's more
cool.
in depth than I thought. I've never
Yeah.
had a transfer. A lot of teachers will have transfer students from that program, and so they kind
Uh-huh.
of know what they've already learned. And I've
Right.
heard teachers say, wow, their ear is so good, their sight reading is so good that they have a lot of those skills already
Yeah.
built in. So I
Yeah.
haven't personally had a
Yeah.
student from that program, but
Yeah. So we have a connections program, which is for other teachers. So, I mean, if you're interested in becoming a Let's Play Music teacher, looking for new teachers all the time, and there's really great support for the teachers. The corporate office has really great support for the teachers. So if that's something you're interested
that's
in,
awesome.
it's beautiful. You have it's group lessons, which is really fun and a little bit different and pretty good financially to teach group
Yeah.
lessons. So there's all of that in it. Plus, it has a bit of a reputation, so that parents know, and they look for me. Like I get referrals all the time just because they know the brand,
Oh,
which is
that's
awesome.
good. Yeah.
But the another thing that we have, like I was saying, is this connections program. Kind of, it's not really a huge program, but if you go to the website, you can look for connections. And basically, what connections is it's how we connect with other music teachers. So you can learn a little bit about our system and the things we teach. There's a few things that we teach a little bit differently than traditional. So you can kind of get a feel for like when students come to you, you're going to get like who are transfer students from Let's Play Music, you're going to get an idea of what how the skills are slightly differently, so you can kind of like from there like start to teach them a little bit more traditionally, and also
Some of
get a
the
feel for
language that they've been
ex-
using.
exactly
For instance, they have a color code of chords.
correct.
They
So
do
there's
learn them later, though, right?
yes, yes, but just very briefly at the end. And most of honestly, my experience has been that the kids are so stuck on the red, blue, and yellow, which is what we call the 1, the 4, and the 5
Okay.
chord, respectively. Um, that usually they're still kind of in that a little bit. So even though in like later lessons I try and be like, hey, this is the 1 chord, the red chord. Sometimes I still have to use both languages. So it's really helpful to know like that they come from that, for example. But anyways, if you go to you can like fill out a little form and let us know that you are interested in being a connections teacher. You can just learn a little bit about the program. You don't have to learn how to teach it, but you can just learn a little about the program. And then you're on basically what's a referral list, so that our graduates know that you are interested in taking your graduates and you understand the program a little bit. And then it kind of gives them parents a place to look when they're looking to make that transition. And it's a really cool thing. So if you're looking to grow your studio, this is a great place to look for new students who already have a great foundation, who are just constantly coming through this program. So
That's so helpful. And
yeah,
then to back up,
yes, sorry,
initially you certified to teach this program,
I
right?
did. Yes, yes.
What was
So
that
it
process like?
okay. So you apply. You just there's people come from all different places. So there's some like me who come as a teacher, but you don't have to. There's a lot of people who come because they're maybe a parent of a child who's been through it. So basically, as long as you can hold a pitch and you have some like really basic foundational knowledge, they'll teach you everything else. And so
Cool.
because the program is 3 years long, the certification is also 3 years long. And it is a little bit rigorous because the standards are fairly high for this program. But as long as you can be committed, um, then you can go ahead and go into this program and they will teach you everything that you need to know. I have learned so much along the way that has been so helpful to my own teaching in general. Because I didn't go to school and study music, I found that like learning solfege and learning how to sing like that really helped me to become a much better like sight singer and sight reader than I was before. There were some skills there that kind of got sharpened for me. I've learned a lot about classroom management and about adding fun into my like regular private lessons. So
Mhm.
yeah, so there's a lot, but they take you through the entire process. It's really great. And then each year you teach a class and certify for it. And so by the time you have your first year of graduates 3 years later, you're fully certified.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
robust. And you can just certify in one area, right? Either the little baby one or
right.
the.
So there's 3 different programs. Let's Play Music. That's the one that I've been talking about so far. That's like the flagship program. But there's one called Sound Beginnings, and I also teach that one. And that is for 0 to 4 years old. And that is a like child and caregiver
Oh, yeah.
class. It's 30 minutes long. The caregiver comes with them every time. I have some moms, some dads. I've had grandmas pop in, like all kinds of fun things. And we just sit and we do some of the things, but again, in a very age appropriate way for preschoolers. We also have some kindergarten concepts in there, things like name recognition and like the days of the week and the months of the year and the planets of the solar system and those kind of concepts as well that we're doing, in addition to exposure to classical music and learning how to feel a beat and identifying different instruments in the orchestra. So there's still a lot that goes on in that class. That's 0 to 4 years old. That one is a semester by semester registration. So it's a little bit more of a drop in, drop out. Each semester is 15 classes long. And so it goes for like the whole fall semester or like the full winter semester, just like you would think of a semester.
Yeah.
Um, and that's Sound Beginnings. That one also feeds great into the Let's Play Music program because you start to introduce some of the concepts that again will be more fleshed out in the Let's
Mm.
Play Music program. The third program is called Presto, and that one's for 8 to 12 years old. There's where you can start. And that one's a 2-year program. It teaches all the exact same things that you do in the 3-year Let's Play Music program, except that it is made, it moves a little bit faster because the kids are a little bit older and it's more developmentally appropriate, but it's still a group class. I don't teach Presto. There are some other Presto teachers around though, but
You just go
kind of
into like private lessons after that?
exactly. Just the same as Let's Play Music. All of the classes are meant to be foundational. None of them are meant to take the place of private instruction and of
Mm,
private teachers, but it is meant to give kids kind of a foundation. So then whatever instrument they go on to,
yeah.
whether they sing in the choir at school or they end up taking up the violin after, or they go on to do piano, which a lot of the graduates do, they kind of have this foundation that helps them to be ready to move on.
Oh,
So,
can you imagine if a lot of these instrumentalists had that foundation?
right?
That would be amazing. Well, I'm
Right?
gonna segue a little bit now
Yeah.
because the other reason I wanted Jessica to come on is because Jessica gave a presentation at our music teacher group about some different methods. And I was like, oh wow, I've never tried that one, never tried that one, never tried that one. So I have some reviews on my piano teacher primer course of some of the most popular methods, but some of these like newer ones or things that are popular in other areas, I'm not sure. I haven't tried them. I haven't tried them much, so I would love to hear, take it away and just give us kind of your review, certain students that different method books are good for. Can we go to that?
Yeah, so this is part of my quest to be like the fun teacher. Like I just want to have so much fun in my studio. And one of the ways is by looking for new method books that are fun, that are fresh, that really pique students' interest. And also another thing that I do is I teach out of several method books and I try and match the method book to what I think the student needs. I typically start, especially if I start them beginners or like when they finish the Let's Play Music program, either way, when they first come into private lessons, I start by giving them a few weeks of just one-on-one time so I can kind of get a feel for how they are, where we won't do a book. We'll just do some other things. I'll give them other assignments. We might start to learn like some little scales. We'll start to learn how to like read letters and stuff. And I'll do that all outside of a book. And then once I kind of think I see where they will best fit, I'll put them into one of these other methods. So I know some people have heard of the piano safari method. That's a really good one. Piano safari is like the whole theme is animals. I have honestly had kids who are like, could care less one way or the other about music, right? Their parents, like, I signed you up for music lessons. I mean, we all have those, right? But they see all the animals and that like grabs their attention. And I'm like, whatever it takes to like get their attention. This one moves a fairly slow for a method, I feel like. But it's interspersed with things like there's some composing creative activities in here. There's some rote songs that you can teach them. So in other words, they don't read the music, but you just play the music for them and demonstrate how to play. Plus, at the same time, it's teaching them rhythm and sight reading. And all of that is in this book. And it's all like with a whole bunch of really fun animals. So I really like that book. I've grabbed more than one student's attention because they've just been so excited about playing all these songs and meeting all these animals and looking at the pictures and all of those kind of things. But it's very solid and it's very research backed and it's a really great method book. Another one that I like, especially for younger, is the Wunderkeys method. And this is by
And
Andrea
Wonder, by the
Tarnowski.
way,
Yeah,
Wonder is spelled Wunderkeys.
correct.
Wonder
Yes,
Keys. And we will link all of these, so don't worry, we'll have
for
links for
sure.
everything for you all.
Piano Safari, I usually buy from the Piano Safari website, and they have sales a couple times a year, so that's a great time to stock up for students. Wunderkeys you can get on Amazon though, which is nice. But Wunderkeys is the concepts are all taught through like comics. So there's these super cute comics and these little friends, and I'll ask a student, like, do you want to read one of the voices? Do you want me to read both of them? And if they're a confident reader or a budding reader, they're like, oh, I want to read one of the voices. And we read and ham it up and talk about it. Or sometimes they're like, no, you go ahead and read both of them. So I'll, read them and do the voices and whatever. But that's how they teach the concepts. And it's interspersed with these little mini games in the lessons. And so basically you just follow along in the book and it's on the bench, off the bench, and teaching of the concepts in lots of different ways, and seeing it and playing a game with it. And then there's games at the ends of some of the chapters too. So it's a very playful way to teach. This one moves a little bit slower as well. But especially for young students or students who I feel like are just taking a little bit of time to understand and to get the concepts, I feel like it moves at a great pace for them. So that's the Wunderkeys book by Andrea and Trevor Dow is their name. They're from
Oh, that's an
Phoenix,
Andrea
Pennsylvania.
Dow. Okay, yeah. She's
Yeah.
from Canada and she puts out a lot of other good
Yes.
music.
Yes, you can. There's tons of other things on their website, but that's their method books for like
Okay.
littles, basically.
Making the connection here.
Yeah, yeah. Another one that I like is the Supersonics method. This is by Daniel McFarlane. He's out of Australia. I think you can buy this one on Amazon as well. His songs I feel like are really a little bit more boy oriented. So I found this to be a good one for boys. There's songs like Let's Get Loud and Build It Up and Blast Up. And so they have like these really fun names to them. He uses a lot of patterns and a lot of repetition. And so it's a very big book. He does in this book what it takes other people like less pages to do, but he very much like pounds in like the patterns and the concepts really well, which is really nice. Again, if you need something for somebody who just needs a little bit more scaffolding around the concepts, I found that to be really good.
Is it almost like two levels in one?
I wouldn't say that. I would feel
No.
like we're like one level that has like double the music for it. You get,
Okay.
like, double the music. I would.
Do you ever do it and skip songs? Skip pieces?
No, more than likely I will like double or triple up and I'll be like, you can handle like 5 songs out of this book.
Okay, yeah.
Being so silly is more like what I will do so they can have like the experience and the exposure personally.
Yeah.
So there's that one. Another one that I really like is Piano Pronto, and that's Jennifer Eklund. I buy this from her website as well because I think it's the best price there, even though you have to pay shipping, but I think it's a lot more expensive if you buy it like third party from Amazon. But what I like about her is she uses a lot of folk songs and a lot of like famous classical melodies. So for some kids, being able to sing along or recognize the song is huge. And so they will really light up because they know Mary Had a Little Lamb, and they know Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and Farmer in the Dell and Ode to Joy. And that's what this is all made of. And so it has usually some writing on the one side where you write in and do a little bit of prep work. And then on the second page is the song that goes through those concepts. And that's pretty much the format throughout the book. Older kids like this a little bit better too. It's a little bit less cutesy. And I feel like she moves at a pretty good, clips along at a pretty good fast pace. So if I have someone who I feel like is really accelerating, that's one that I will use as well.
Yeah, Pronto.
There's that one. The other one that Jennifer Eklund does is this Fired Up series.
That's cute. Wow.
Fired Up is meant for the older beginner. Moves a little bit quicker, but the biggest thing is they're all written by her, and all the pieces, and they are very just sophisticated sounding. They're a little bit less kid. So I use this one for like older beginners a lot. There's a couple books in this series. Moves quite fast. Great duet book to this one too. Like I'll usually play the duet with my students along because that really fleshes them out. And so
that's so good. Yeah, I've noticed Jennifer Eklund's supplementary music. She has a really good way of capturing those tween, teen, just those sophisticated sounds, but making it accessible and not difficult.
Yes. So if you're looking for a piano method book that does that, and you want something for someone who's a little bit older, but still at the very beginning, because it starts out at the very beginning, try the Fired Up method.
Never tried it. I'm going to have to try that. Actually, I might try it. I'm going to start a new older beginner. So
oh, perfect.
Maybe I'll try that one for him.
Yeah,
you're giving me good ideas for the situation.
So those are some of the different method books I use, and some of the reasons that I use them. Usually it's because I want the child to be having fun and I want them to connect to the music. And I just feel like which method book I use can really help aid me in that goal.
Yeah, so good. And just tell me again how you do. You said you do different ones sometimes. So do you kind of check it out to them and have them do, or how do you do different ones?
I just mean that I will have like different students, I will match up with different books, and we'll usually go through the whole book. But I have no problem with if it's not working out and it just does not seem to be connecting with them with the let's try something different.
Try something different.
So I'm happy to do that as well.
Thank you
But
so much. That was
yeah.
so helpful. That was so good. Well, let's move now to your top 3 prime tips for beginning piano teachers.
Okay. Okay. So my first tip is that remember in the back of your head or in the forefront always that the parent is ultimately your client.
Mm,
They're the ones who's paying you. They're the ones who are determining whether or not you are going to continue to teach their students. So communication with parents is 100% key in my book. One of the things that I started doing recently, actually just at the fall, that has been huge, is I printed off a list of all of my students in my Let's Play Music program and in my private studio. And I divided that among how many weeks I had for the semester. And I think it was the answer was 5. I had 5. If I divided up, I had 5 students each week, and I decided that each weekend I was going to sit down, and I wasn't crazy with teaching, and I was going to send an individualized text to 5 different parents specifically about their students. And I wanted these to be like really nice, really pat them on the back, really like make them really proud of what their student is doing moments. So I'll look for those moments during the week, and sometimes I'll even jot down the text that I want to for the text that I want to, like right after their lesson. You know, Susie did so great today at sight reading. I can just tell that like reading the bass clef notes is really just clicking for her, and it's so awesome. And I love seeing this progress, like things like that. And I have got such great feedback from my parents after I send them a message that says, your child is so wonderful, and I love having them in my studio. It's been just like huge how much it's gone towards like goodwill for my parents. So that's something that I'm going to continue to do. I reset this semester. I'm starting over again because I want to make sure that I touch each parent at least one time in this way. And I'm also doing things like, you know, email communication from my studio, and sometimes there's a chat at drop off or at pickup or things like that that I really try and do, because I just really try and embrace that once again the parent is my client ultimately, and they're the ones who I really need to keep happy. So that's my tip number 1. Anytime, if
that
you can
is
keep that
so
paradigm.
good. I'm thinking that I'm thinking that gives you some really positive vibes about your students so that next time they come and the time after that, you're kind of already looking for those positive things that you
Yes,
said about
absolutely.
them. And so that's another way for like you to enjoy teaching them even more too.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's awesome.
I love it.
Um, yeah.
So now
Okay.
moving to the student relationship number 2.
Yes. So number 2, I think the most important thing that you can do to your student is to love them and to build a connection with them. I think that in my mind, that is much more important than making sure that you teach them the material, or that you stay on target, or that you give them enough homework, or that they are moving forward. Because I found that when I put my relationship with them first, all of that other stuff just follows behind naturally.
Yeah.
I have a student right now who is in my Let's Play Music program. He's in the 3rd year, and has pretty intense diagnosed ADHD.
Hmm.
And which is tough, especially in a group setting, to try and manage this one kid who's kind of all over the place. He just has to move constantly. And so I decided that my number 1 priority was going to be to love him.
Hmm.
And so I just started to just be like, how can I connect with him? How can I, instead of being like, you're not doing it again, and you're not staying on task, and you're getting off the rest of it, instead of having that kind of an attitude, how can I find joy in the small moments when he connects with me? How can I tell him you're doing an awesome job? And I have seen as he's matured, because like I said, he started when he was 4, and now he may have been 5, I don't remember. Now he's 6 or 7-ish. And as he's starting to get better at those skills and at controlling himself and those kind of things, we already have that connection. And so he loves music because he knows that I love him, and because he knows that I care about him as a person. And I think that makes all the difference. And don't get me wrong, there have definitely been classes that I've walked away from where I've been like crying, and I've been like, this is so hard, and I'm never going to be able to make it through this year with this child. But But on the whole, I found that that has been a really great thing to live by. Love your students first. I would much rather connect with them and have a good time during our lesson than get after them about not having done their piano practice over the week. To me, that's just a much more important thing. Now, I don't have a lot of really serious students in my studio, so I can, because that is how I have built my studio, I can do that. I know not everybody has that kind of like license to be able to do that, but I still think that to observe yourself and how you are interacting with your students, and do they feel loved, and do they feel like this is a good place to come, I think that makes a huge difference.
I do too. And I think both one and two work together to retain students. So you have these
Yes.
families for a long time, and
Right.
that's the business-wise sustainable income, and
Right.
then that's
Right.
really relationships that last, and then they're inviting you to their weddings and baby
For
showers.
sure.
And it's
For
like
sure.
they always think of you in a positive way, and likewise
Absolutely.
you think of them.
Yep.
Good memories.
Yeah. So my third tip, because I was kind of on a theme about relationships. I thought, okay, what about your relationship with yourself? Like keeping it fresh for yourself, because I think you can get stuck a little bit in a rut. And so I think that mixing it up is great. Like my method books are one way that I keep it mixed up. And I know there's lots of different ways that you can mix it up um, by offering like different themed recitals can really keep things fresh in your studio, things like that. Um, and another thing is when you have big ideas, like go for it. I say, make it happen. I can't tell you how many times I've had a big idea and written it into the email and then press send on that email to all my families. And then when I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen, but I always do. So like
You're
have faith
committed
in
now.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's something about like sending that off that you're just like, okay, well, now I gotta figure it. So one year it was the year that it was the anniversary of the Apollo moon landing. And so there was kind of like, I thought space was such a nice theme. So we did space related everything, stars, planets, outer space, all that kind of stuff. Had to touch on that somehow for their recital song. And then about halfway through, I thought, what would be really fun is if we did a studio project where everybody arranged Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then at the end of the recital, everybody got to play their different variation on Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And it ended up turning into this like multimedia thing where we had like a screen with like space images like in the background
Ooh.
playing while the kids played all their variations. And it was so fun to see the creativity that came out of it. And that was one of those projects that when I started, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but it did. And it was really fun and it was really good. And it kept it fresh. And the kids had fun, the parents had fun, and most importantly, I think I really had fun. So things like that, I think, are always great.
100%. I love that. Yes. So good. Those are super good tips. And again, kind of unique to other guests I've had on the podcast. So that makes it
Thanks.
fun for my audience to hear a lot of different ideas. Oh my gosh, Jessica, you're the best.
Well,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you
thanks
so
so much. This has
much.
been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, and Jessica's super good on stage. Like she's really good. You can tell just from our little bit of time together.
Well, I'm definitely one of those people who get me talking about piano teaching or piano music or anything, and like I will just go because I'm so passionate about it and I love
Me
it so
too.
much. Yeah,
Me too.
sure.
Yep, that's
So,
why I have a podcast about it. I could
absolutely.
talk about it forever. Well, Jessica, thank you so much again. Maybe we'll have to have you back in the future. I'm so happy to have learned all these things myself and then to be able to pass these other ideas on to the audience out there. So thanks everyone, and thanks Jessica for being on. Before you go, a quick note. Your dedication to piano education is keeping the music alive. If you have found value in our conversation, please leave a rating or a review and share it with a fellow piano teacher. Together, we're changing the world, one student at a time. Until next week, play on.